Hi and welcome, I'm MrsCuteFelts and today I'm going to show you how you can needle felt your own candle with beautiful wax drippings and cozy flame. It can be a wonderful addition to your Christmas wreath, ornament for your Christmas tree, or you can even create your own ceiling full of candles like you see on Harry Potter. So let's start. For your candle, you are going to need pipe cleaner and pliers or scissors to cut it. I'm using pipe cleaner in yellow, but you can match the color to your candle. For the wool, I really suggest to use carded wool. I will be using this carded core wool and then covering my candle with white carded wool just because my white carded is really fine and it would take me ages to finish this project. For the flame, you will need wool tops. I'm using this warm yellow wool tops and tiny amounts of orange carded wool, which is not mandatory, just a little accent for the flame. Use any felting mat you have. I will be using this foam one, and for the needles I mainly use 38 twisted star from Heidi Feathers as well as 40 gauge triangle. Multi-needle tool might speed up the process. The pipe cleaner will be the core of your candle, so the first step would be to cut it in desired length, adding 1 centimeter on both ends for bending it over later. Then take a long strip of your carded wool and start to wrap it around your pipe cleaner at one end. Wrap it for a little bit and then fold the end of your pipe cleaner over to secure the wool in place like this. Then keep twisting your pipe cleaner to wrap it in wool. You can pull the wool you're wrapping from time to time to make sure that it's nice and straight and there is no twists in it. It will make the surface way more neater. And when you reach the other end and it's covered in wool, you just bend it over like this and go around it for a few times. I don't have much wool left, so I will keep wrapping it around my candle, now going to the opposite end. But if you feel like you can't hold it anymore with your hands, you can always pull off the excess wool and secure it in place with a couple of stabs, just like I'm doing here. Now you just keep wrapping like this and securing the wool in place until you reach the desired size of your candle. Try to wrap as tightly as you can so there will be less air in between the fibers and you will felt way faster. My hands are not really great for wrapping, so my candle is quite loose right now, but that's okay. And now it's time to felt it. I'm using my multi-needle tool with 3 40 gauge triangles in it, and I'm keeping my stabs quite shallow. If I stab too deep, I risk hitting the pipe cleaner and breaking my needles. And actually there is no point in stabbing too deeply because it won't make the felting process faster. You will get the best results just by investing some time in this. I spent around 25 minutes to make my piece firm, but don't worry if you're taking longer or shorter because it depends not only on the needles you're using but also the wool and of course your felting speed. I'm quite slow felter. I know it looks fast on camera, but in real life it's pretty slow. When it comes to the top and the bottom of your candle, it's pretty easy. You just point your needles towards the direction you want to flatten your piece. Be really careful at this stage because it's really easy to hurt your fingers. Don't worry if the ends look really rounded at the beginning. Trust me, if you felt them a little bit more, they will get flatter and flatter. Speaking about firming up your piece, it's also pretty helpful to switch around your needles. It's personal preference, but for me it really helps to first use my 40 gauge triangles to get most of the flap down, because when you're using multi-needle tool it's better if you use finer needles in it. And here I'm again using a bit more coarse needle, 38 twisted star, and it makes the progress way faster now because my wool doesn't have that much air in between the fiber. As I said, I spent around 25 minutes firming it up, and here is the final shape. It's not really candle-like, so I will now add a little bit more wool on both ends just to make the shape even. If you have any vegetable matter in your wool, it's time to pick it out, because we are now creating the top layer of your candle and it will not be smooth if there is anything in it. Remember that you can always pull off the excess wool, because it's better to add little bits and build it up more and more later instead of adding too much, because you will not be able to take the excess off that easily. Now I'm going to quickly felt down all the wool I added. To flatten both ends of my candle, I will just point my needle towards it and felt it down to create flat, smooth surface. It might be easier to lay your candle on the table and felt it like this. And here is the finished result. I will just squish it for you so you can see how firmly it's felted. If you used core wool like me, you can now move to adding some color. It's pretty straightforward. You just wrap your candle base in the color of your choice. I find it's easier if the piece of the wool is really thin and in the size of your candle, then you just wrap it around it a few times, trying to wrap as tightly as you can, and then just felt down the fiber. I use multi-needle tool with 3 40 gauge triangles in it, because it really speeds up the process and leaves tiny needle marks. I spent around 5 minutes in total to do this. We can finally add our wax drippings. I will use my core wool, so the color differs a bit from the rest of the candle and you can see it better. But of course you can use the same color you used for the rest of the candle. I'm now taking small amount of the carded wool, folding one end in and twisting it. I'm sorry my camera went out of focus here, but I just simply twisted it, and now we are going to secure it at the edge on the top using a single needle. There is nothing fancy here. I'm just securing it around the twist. You don't have to make this neat at all, actually quite the contrary. I'm just felting it in place and making sure it's secured, because we will then pull it to make the drippings. I will now show you the technique up close with a bigger dripping. I'm holding the fiber in place at the top using my right hand. Then I'm pulling and twisting the wool to create the dripping itself. When I'm happy with the length of the dripping here, I will keep twisting the fiber and fold it back up, just to add a little bit more bulk. Now we have to secure the wool in place. I'm taking a single needle and first focusing on the free fiber on the top, so my dripping doesn't unravel and lose its shape. When I feel that the fiber is secured there, I can let go of my dripping and just hold it in place with one finger, because now we just have to attach it to our candle. I'm focusing on the edges so I don't felt down the bulk too much, and here we are just really securing it in place. We are not focusing on the shape or anything. We will go back in later on and work on the details. And basically that's all of the magic. Now you just keep twisting the wool, adding more wool if needed, and creating the drippings in the same fashion. I'm really trying to alternate how close the drippings are to each other and how long they are, but it's really personal preference and you can follow your heart. I'm creating multiple candles and some of them will be shorter, so they will have more drippings just because they have been burning for quite some time and melting way more than the longer ones. To make my drippings blend with the rest of the candle better, I will cover them using white carded wool, but you can skip this step if you used the same wool as you have for the rest of the candle. However, you cannot skip the shaping of the drippings. Here you can see how I'm focusing on the edges of my drippings a little bit more with finer needle. Here I'm using 40 gauge triangle and really rounding up the ends of my drippings and working on the edges just to make sure that it's really blended with the rest of my candle and looks natural. At this stage you may also find places where you want to add additional drippings, because if you have a longer dripping, sometimes they overlap, so there will be a shorter one on top. Here you can see me adding one just like we did before and then spending some time to blend it with the previous one. When you're happy with your drippings, you might notice that the top of your candle is not neat anymore, so take your needle and felt it down to make it flat again. And here are my results. I decided to not add too much white because I like the subtle color difference in the drippings. Now we just need a flame. I'm taking small amount of my yellow wool tops and placing it on top of my candle like this, making sure that the middle part is in the center of my candle. Now I'm taking my coarser needle. It can be 38 or you can even use 36 gauge needle for this, but really try to secure the wool in place. Take your time and don't rush this, because otherwise it will be super easy to pull the flame out of your candle and we don't want that. When it's secure, you brush the wool up like this and now you have really big flame. So we need to make it smaller. I will now take my scissors and shorten the fiber to make it appropriate to the size of my candle. I suggest you first cut off the most of the excess fiber and work with the shaping later. So to shape the flame, I suggest you brush the fiber together like this and then shorten the fibers on the outside and make the top part a bit thinner, and that will give you the flame shape. I think it's better to cut off smaller amounts because you can always cut off some more a little bit later. So I really took my time here. When you are happy with the overall shape, you can now open up the flame like this, like a little flower, to see the center again. Then you can add tiny amount of carded orange wool in the center and secure it with a couple of steps. Then close up the flame again and you will have way more natural looking flame than before. This will add a little bit more bulk on the lower part of your flame, so maybe you will feel the need to cut off some more wool, just like I did. Here is a little close-up of my flame. And with that, your candle is finished. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more. Let me know in the comments if you are going to felt some candles this year and where you are going to use them. And as always, I absolutely love to see your works on social media, so please tag me. See you in my next one.